The story of how Mary met John. 12 months before Tommy was born, his parents met on a plane traveling from Naples, Italy to New York, USA. Mary Esposito saw a tall black man looking in her direction. She was at the airport in Naples, Italy, and this stranger was just staring at her. When she was much younger, a group of thugs confronted her just a few blocks from her home. She thought she was done for. But then a strange woman walked up and said, "What are you punks doing with my sister?" They turned on her, and she said, "Oh, you think you can take me? Well, you probably can. But then you would have to deal with my boyfriend. You know who that is?" "No, I didn't think so, because if you did, you wouldn't be effing with us." The woman then took Mary by the hand and led her to safety. It turned out that the woman had been bluffing, and she warned Mary that the bluff doesn't work every time. So she should learn to be more careful. That was years ago. And now in the airport in Naples, she found herself in need of a bluff. A tall black man was staring at her, so she stared back, looked him up and down, then turned away as though he was beneath her interest, and walked away. She was flying economy class to New York City, in the USA. When she finally boarded the plane, the stewardess informed her that she had been upgraded to first class. She was surprised to find herself sitting next to the man who had been staring at her. She was a little apprehensive at first. Then she decided to speak to him, as he was now pretending to ignore her. "How do you do, sir? My name is Mary Esposito. Did you upgrade me to first class, or was it my rich brother who is waiting for me in New York?" He looked at her then, took a deep breath, and said, "I was sitting here trying to think of what to say, but since you figured it out, I guess honesty is the best policy." He paused before continuing. Then he said, "There is something about you. I think it's your blue eyes. Most of the people in Naples have brown eyes. You don't see that many blue-eyed people this far south." She asked to switch seats with him, so she could look out the window, and he agreed. After they had settled again, he asked her, "What do you see?" And she said, "The clouds. We are flying above the clouds." In an attempt to keep the conversation going, he said, "If it wasn't for the clouds, you would be able to see the Atlantic Ocean, the second largest ocean in the world. If this plane was to go down right now, we would be far from the sight of land." She giggled and said, "That's a nice conversation to have while we are flying." Doubling down on his point, he said, "What I'm saying is that in such an event, and there was only one person I could save, it would be you." She smiled at him and said, "Well, I'll try to keep that in mind." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You know, some people claim that the Romans believed that the earth was flat. They say that that belief contributed to their downfall." She had been staring at her hands during the moment when he was silent. She had been trying to think of something positive to say. She had decided that cultivating a friendship with this stranger might be worthwhile, since her brother was the only person she knew in New York, and there was nothing for her in Naples. But when he brought up the subject of the Romans and their beliefs, she breathed a sigh of relief. She was glad he was willing to keep the conversation going, because she couldn't think of anything to say. But she was good at asking questions. So she asked a question, hoping it would not offend. She said, "Why did they think the Romans believed in a flat earth, and how did that belief lead to their downfall?" He smiled, which reassured her. He liked her question. Then he said, "You are right to doubt that story. I doubt it myself, actually. I was just trying to make conversation." After he said that, he jumped to another topic. As she listened to him drone on about this and that, she thought about what it would be like to have him as a boyfriend, or at least as a friend. She really needed a good, dependable friend. All she had in the world that she could count on was her brother, and he was constantly getting himself mixed up in something shady. But now he said he was going straight. And even if he wasn't, he had never given her a reason to distrust him. She was all he had left in the world, and she was sure that he would do whatever he could to keep her safe. After all, they were brother and sister, they were family. She turned her attention back to the man sitting beside her. Some of the things he talked about were interesting, and some were boring as hell. But she politely nodded until he told her about his arranged marriage. Some men just don't know when to shut up. He had just come from Ethiopia. He had just met his Ethiopian bride-to-be. She was tall and well endowed with female attributes. Her liquid brown eyes were almost black. She was very, very beautiful. But he didn't love her. Wasn't sure he could ever learn to love her. Mary had stopped listening to him talk about his Ethiopian bride-to-be and started grinding her teeth when the plane landed in New York. She got off the plane and said her final goodbyes to Mr. John Ubuntu. Nighttime had just fallen when she got in the limousine with her brother. In an attempt to put the tall, soon-to-be-married black man out of her mind, she said to her brother, "So, Vince, tell me about this job you've got for me. You said you would fill me in on the details once I made it to New York. Well, here I am." Vince seemed hesitant. Then he said, "It's good work, pays well, and you're very beautiful. Should get lots of clients. And by the way, sis, did you tell anyone back in Naples you were coming here to see me?" "No," she said. "You told me not to, remember?" Mary noticed that her brother's hands were shaking, so she became nervous. She started looking around. Out the back window she noticed another limousine following them. It looked a lot like the limousine John Ubuntu had gotten into back at the airport. When she mentioned it to her brother, he said it was probably one of Mr. Vito's men, not John Ubuntu or whoever. No black man would come this far into Little Italy without being invited by the boss. When their car finally stopped, her brother had her get out and stand in the headlights of another car so that Mr. Vito could get a good look at her. As she stood there, blinded by the lights, she heard a voice call out, "Cute face, but what does the rest of her look like? Have her take off that coat. In fact, have her take off her clothes." Her brother helped her take her coat off. Then, after a moment, the same voice said, "You have her coat, now have her take off the rest of her clothes." To which her brother asked, "How many?" And the voice said, "All of them. I want to see her naked." At which point her brother turned to her and said, "You heard the man." Mary screamed in her revulsion. "What? Vince, what kind of job are you trying to get me?" "Well," Vince said, "it's not exactly a job. You see, I owe Mr. Vito a lot of money. He said he would forgive my debt if I could provide him with a beautiful woman. You're the only beautiful woman I know." Unable to believe her ears, she said, "What? You're selling me? Vince, I'm your sister." "Yeah," Vince said, "but if I don't come up with some money, he's going to break both of my legs. I need my legs, sis. Besides, it's not like you've never had sex before." "Vince," she said quietly, "that's not true. I'm a virgin." "What? I'm a virgin. What about—" He lied. "I never did anything with him." Then Vince shouted into the darkness, "You hear that, Mr. Vito? My sister is a virgin. She's worth twice as much as my debt." The voice from beyond the lights shouted back, "A deal is a deal, Vincent Esposito. Go back on your word and I'll have you killed right here and take your sister anyway." "You hear that, sis?" Vince said. "My life versus your virginity. I know which one I'm going to choose." Then out of the darkness there was another voice, a voice from the plane, the voice of the man who had upgraded her to first class, the voice of John Ubuntu. But he did not say, "Unhand that woman, you fiend," as they do in the movies. Instead, he was quoting Shakespeare's Hamlet. Out of the darkness she heard, "To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to take up arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing them, end them." Then the tall black stranger stepped into the light and said, "Mr. Vito, gentlemen, this young lady is under my protection. You can walk away now or crawl away later, but you will leave her alone." There was laughter all around in the dark. Vito's voice said, "Boy, I don't know where you think you are, but Harlem is 5 miles from here. I think you're lost." Then John said, "That's a no then, okay? I'm not armed. And you have 6 men with you. I think we can settle this with fist, and to sweeten the deal, all of you get to attack me at once, and the winner gets the girl." One of Vito's men said, "Boss, this bozo must be some prize fighter from out of town, because I certainly don't recognize him. Let me take him out for you." Overhearing the conversation, John said, "No singles. I need you to attack me all at once, so I don't have to go chasing you down individually. That gets tiring after a while, and I don't have all night." Then he turned to Mary and said, "I need you to face away and close your eyes. Cover your ears with your hands and hum loudly to yourself. Things are about to happen here that no innocent person should have to see." Mary did as she was told. After a few minutes, someone grabbed her wrist and pulled her hands away from her ears. She jumped in fright. John said, "It's okay. It's okay. It's only me. You're safe now. The bad guys aren't going to hurt you anymore." Mary looked around. Her brother, Vince, and 7 other men were on the ground, groaning as though in pain. After stepping over a few of the men, Mary asked, "What happened to them?" John said, "They fell down the stairs." Mary looked around again and said, "I don't see any stairs." John said, "That's why we have to get out of here. Otherwise, we are going to have a hard time explaining this to the police." Less than an hour later, John was helping Mary check into the hotel where he was staying. He said, "I'm going to get you your own room down the hall from mine. Also, I'm going to set you up a line of credit. Think $10,000 will be enough?" Mary looked at him and said, "Mr. Ubuntu, I don't want your money." John looked shocked. Then he said, "Mary, I'm sorry, I was just trying to help." Her tears started to flow and she said, "Mr. Ubuntu, I'm not a charity case." A bluff. She needed a bluff right now. But she was all out. On the plane, when John had upgraded her to first class, and she asked him about it, he had said that honesty was the best policy. It was time for her to be honest. So she said, "Mr. Ubuntu, I'm not a charity case, I'm a basket case. You want to give me $10,000. I don't know what to do with that kind of money. I've never had that kind of money in my life. When I was growing up, I watched a lot of pretty young girls from my neighborhood go out into the world to make their fortune. They made or was given lots of money, but they didn't know what to do with it. So they ended up right back where they started, broke and destitute, their youth and beauty gone. I don't want that to be me." She looked away from him and tried to compose herself. Then she looked up at him and continued, "Your Ethiopian bride, is she coming here anytime soon?" "No," he said. "She's not coming here at all. She's staying in Ethiopia." Mary walked to the nearest wall and leaned against it for support. She had something to say to this man, and his response could tear her apart. He had all the cards, and she had none. She said, "Mr. Ubuntu, why do I need my own room? Why can't I stay with you in yours?" He cleared his throat and said, "Mary, you're a virgin." He had walked to the wall with her, and was now close enough to where she could put her hand over his mouth, stop him from talking. Then she said, "Can we just go to your room, please? I don't want to talk about it here." He agreed, and they walked to his room. After he opened the door, he stood back so she could enter first, but she became dizzy and almost fell. He caught her before she hit the floor, and carried her across the threshold, and placed her on the bed. He got her a glass of water. She had to sit up to drink it. Then he said, "I need to tell someone why I don't want to marry this Ethiopian girl." As she started unbuttoning her blouse, she said, "What you want doesn't seem to matter. You have family obligations. I understand that." He grabbed her hands and stopped her. Then he said, "In Ethiopia, they practice female circumcision. The procedure stops a woman from fully enjoying sex. It takes away their lust. Sex becomes her duty to her husband, not love shared between two people. When I marry, I want my wife to wake up to a husband, not an obligation. A circumcised woman can't love me the way I want and need to be loved. I want a woman that I can take to the mountaintop of ecstasy. That can't happen with a woman who has had her genitals mutilated." Mary suddenly realized what he was trying to say. Then she said, "John, you mean this wife of yours can never have an orgasm?" "Wait a minute," he said. "You're a virgin. How do you know that word?" She smiled to herself and said, "What word? You mean orgasm. John, people talk around virgins." Then he said, "And she's not my wife yet." The room was silent for a long while. Then while looking down at her hands, Mary said, "John, I just thought of something." He looked at her and said, "What?" She looked at him and said, "I don't know how to seduce a man. I don't know how to become a mistress, a woman on the side." Then she looked away from him, then looked back and said, "I don't want to be a virgin anymore. I was saving myself for my husband, but all the good men are taken, and saving myself for nothing. I'm going to tell you something no woman should ever tell any man she has just met." John smiled sadly and said, "And what is that?" And she said, "I love you, John Ubuntu." He jumped up suddenly and said, "We just met." She lay down on the bed and said, "I knew you were going to say that, and that's why I shouldn't have told you. But you've said things to make me fall in love with you." "What?" John asked in bewilderment. She said, "When we were flying over the Atlantic, you said that if the plane went down, and you could save only one person, it would be me. And in the parking lot of those abandoned buildings, you told 6 armed men that I was under your protection, and you made it stick. You did all of that for me. How could I not fall in love with you?" "Mary," he said, "I think you're in shock, and I don't want to take advantage of you." "John," she said back to him, "I'm not in shock, and if I am, then learning about sex from someone as nice as you might help me think about something other than my problems. John, there is nothing for me back in Naples. That's why I came here to meet my brother. And you see how that went. You're the first decent man I've met in my life." They both sat quietly for a long time. Then she said, "John, will you dim the lights?" When John jumped in his seat, she said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to attack you in the dark. I was just sitting here trying to figure out why I love you. I was trying to make up a poem, but I think I've composed a song instead. Would you like for me to sing it to you?" "Sure," he said. Then she said, "And if I can sing this song, that means that I am not in shock. And one day, if not tonight or tomorrow, but one day, we will visit the mountain of ecstasy together, and you can show me what I've been missing all my adult life." "Sure." he said as he got up and dimmed the lights. And she started to sing.
Your eyes are brown and mine are blue, but that doesn't explain why I love you. Wherever you roam, wherever you call home, that's the place where I belong. Why do I love you? I don't know. My eyes seem to follow wherever you go. Beyond the ends of the earth, beyond the ends of the sea. If you ever fall in love, let it be with me. I know you have others in your life. Let me be your secret wife. Why do I love you? I don't know. My eyes seem to follow wherever you go. In the middle of the ocean, the other side of land, try to save me if you can. My heart is yours, that will always be true. It beats for just one person, and that person is you. Why do I love you? I don't know. My eyes seem to follow wherever you go. In the darkness of the night, almost any love seems right. But tomorrow the sun will rise, and I will still be by your side. When the heat of passion is gone, I will still be holding on. I'm telling you how I feel, because what we